The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM and we're using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for you guys each and every week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. Now, if you haven't signed up with BetMGM, use bonus code ON3, and you'll get up to $1,500 new player offer on your first wager with BetMGM, plus 50% off an annual subscription to the On3 College Sports Network. Here's how it works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses, and your code for 50% off an annual subscription to the On3 College Sports Network in your BetMGM inbox once your first bet is placed. Just make sure use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Let's make it one for the history books. Let's make it legendary. Welcome to the Hard Count. It is Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. Last one on the face of the planet. As always, presented by BetMGM. Now, it's a soft launch. Not a hard launch, but a soft launch. I think college football is back across the country today. Spring practice slowly but surely starting to pop up. Practicing spring ball out there in Gainesville, Florida. USC, Purdue getting in the mix. So spring practice starting to rear its beautiful looking face and head. We got a lot to talk about on today's show. Everyone's asking questions during this part of the year. I see across college football media space questions for the spring questions. Y'all, we got spring answers. Okay, so keep those questions. We're just going to give you our top 10 most impactful answers of spring practice across the SEC. So we'll do that, I think, probably for the majority of the Power 4, depending on how you'll respond to this one. Top 10 spring practice answers for the SEC. We'll get to that. Also, it's the first Tuesday of the month, meaning it's a Declaration Tuesday. What are things that we're ready to say about the 2026 season as it stands right now during the month of March? I got takes for you on the playoff structure. I got takes for you on Dante Moore and Oregon. Also now, we'll take a quick look at what's going on in Gainesville, Florida when it comes to what they could look like in 2026. All right, we'll get to that in a little bit. Also, Sonny Styles just absolutely obliterated the combine. He wasn't the only one from Columbus that did that. Got a big picture take for you when it comes to the way college football looks right now, and a more dialed-in take when it comes to, if I'm Ryan Day, I'm saying it with my chest, come to Ohio State, we're going to get you in the league. All right, so a lot to unpack. I told you, this show, as always, presented by BetMGM. I appreciate y'all sending thoughts, prayers, and potentially now some of your hard-earned dollars towards the Big Red. We have made Ivy Madness. So if you're rooting and trying to just wish it into existence, speak it into existence, bet it into existence, Cornell making the tournament, any sport odds boost token available at BetMGM. We open with Yale. Again, college football year-round on this show, but we do not apologize at all for trying to will the Big Red into the tournament. One way to do that, not telling you what to do. One way to do that, though, would be to use an any sports odds boost token on the Big Red. But without further ado, let's jump into what we have to lead the show with, man. It's a Top 10 Tuesday, so we've done different rankings across our Tuesdays since the national championship took place in Miami, Florida. Let's go to the top 10 most impactful answers out of spring practice that we could get from across the SEC. Okay, so these aren't predictions necessarily. I'm just telling you, if we were to get this kind of intel out of spring ball, it would have a really big impact by nature of what the segment is on what could happen in the Southeastern Conference. Coming in at number 10, hey, if Byron Brown and the buzz around him isn't just good, it's like, no, not just is he good to go, like he's not adjusting to anything right now as a starting quarterback at Auburn during spring ball. Because the excitement with him is like the numbers at USF were great, right? Threw for 3,000, ran for 1,000 last year, one of like 13 players to do it in college football history. You know he's talented. You know he's skilled. But the question you have if you're an Auburn fan is like, hey, as much as we like Byron Brown, it's the SEC, brother. Right, it's a little bit different than the American Athletic Conference. No knock on where Byron Brown is coming from. But if he pulls up to spring ball and is just slicing and dicing up DJ Durkin's offense in the first 15 practices, and it takes him zero time to get acclimated, okay, now here we go, Auburn. And again, not saying Auburn's going to go win the SEC or play for a national championship or win 10 football games. I'm just saying if you're Auburn and Byron Brown gets the Alex Golesh era started on the right foot, college football in a lot of ways is about optics and momentum. Good optics around the quarterback position, good optics around Alex Golish's offense his first year in the SEC. Zoom out, good optics and momentum behind the Auburn football program. You can take that to the portal, you can take that to boosters and get more NIL. You can take that on the recruiting trail. Like, that would be a really ideal way to get things on and popping on the Plains and Alex Golish's first season out there running the show at Auburn. So, if we hear the answer out of spring ball, like, yeah, Byron Brown, maybe, we're going to see what they are when they play Bama at the end of the year. But right now, Byron Brown, he's not adjusting to any speed of the game or anything that has to do with SEC football. That's going to be a good defense he lines up against every single spring practice session. If Byron Brown isn't adjusting, take note of that. That's a very big answer to have if you're an Auburn fan. Coming in at number 9, if the Tennessee defense isn't elite, that's fine. The answer we could get out of spring ball, though, would be impactful, though. Hey, they're going to be sturdy enough to lean on. A lot of times in college football, the media will give you some sleight of hand as to what you should be paying attention to. Like, full transparency, we have and we will talk about Tennessee's quarterback battle they got going on. Is it Faison Brandon, the young buck? Is it George McIntyre? Rocky Mountain High, Ryan Staub coming over from Colorado. Like, what happens in the quarterback room will obviously make a lot of headlines, generate a lot of clicks for a lot of people. It's all well and good. But understand now, if this Tennessee defense is good enough to where you have to ask less of whoever wins that quarterback battle, that's more important to me. Why? Because Jim Knowles has proven when he is on his P's and Q's and he's got his personnel all the way dialed into what he's doing, he's one of the best defensive coordinators in all of college football. Don't believe me? Check his ring finger. There's a natty ring there when he was at Ohio State. Okay, so I'm not asking Tennessee to be at that level just yet during spring practice, but I want to hear from Austin Price and Eric Kane and Brent Hubbs over at VolQuest, hey, what's going on during spring ball? Now, the defense, I think, will probably be winning a lot of these practices because that's just kind of how it goes, especially early on during any camp, whether it be fall or spring. But if we're going through spring practice and we get to practice 13, 14, 15 in the spring game, and it's like, yeah, this defense, they may not be the best in all of college football, but they're going to be good enough to where whoever's playing quarterback for Tennessee does not need to have a Hendon Hooker kind of year, doesn't need to go rewrite the record book. If he can just be serviceable, we're going to have a chance in a lot of games. That would be huge intel. Huge intel because that's, again, another feather in the cap for Josh Heupel of an offensive coach, quote-unquote, play caller, former quarterback, all those things, for him to once again adjust and adapt his style of roster and style of the way he calls his offense to suit his defense and help his defense out. Here we go, Tennessee. Here we go, all right? Again, you have the right guy as your head coach. We'll talk more about Josh Heupel later in the show, but if Tennessee has a defense that's sturdy enough to lean on, and that's the answer out of spring ball, I would love to hear that. If I was a Vol fan, to me, that's more impactful and more important than whatever's going on at the quarterback position. Now, at number 8, the answer we get out of College Station that I think would be huge is just, hey, listen, Marcel Reed, the buzz around this dude right now is just on another level. And it's funny, go back to where we were last year in Atlanta during SEC Media Days. You got Torian York out there as well as a number of other Aggies for Media Days in Atlanta representing their team. Marcel Reed, at that point in time, was not with A&M at Media Days. And we sat down with the man, the myth, the legend from Texas, Billy Lucci, and asked him, hey, is this Marcel Reed's football team? And I half expected to know the answer that Billy Lucci was going to give us there, but he came back and said, no, not yet, which, again, wasn't my expectation for how he was going to answer that question. This now, very much so, should be Marcel Reed's football team after you go win 11 games and make the college football playoff last year, your first full year as a starter. I want to hear Marcel Reed is that dude. He's playing with conviction. He's getting everyone else lined up. He's taking the next step. All those cliche things you want to hear about your quarterback, I want to hear them, but at a different volume. Because I said this a couple of times about other quarterbacks across college football, especially transfer guys, but I think it really plays well with Marcel Reed here. During spring ball, yes, everyone has lofty expectations, but when it comes to intel, everyone is very careful to not get ahead of their skis because it's 15 practices. A lot of times you are still working out the kinks. A lot of times, too, if you're in the media, the access you get to these guys is somewhat limited. So everyone's kind of trying to toe the line of like, hey, here's what I think, but also sprinkling in some like, I don't know, I could be wrong. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I want to hear the Marcel Reed buzz at the same level that the John Mateer buzz was last year, or 2 years ago, the Cam Ward buzz a couple seasons ago when he was fresh on the scene in Coral Gables. If you're hearing things about Marcel Reed truly being a dude now in that offense at a different degree, that would fire me up and also kind of make me feel better about the whole changing of the guard when it comes to Colin Klein now no longer being your OC. He took the head job at Kansas State. Hard to blame him. Holman Wiggins now going to be calling the show. So the offense should stay the same. Shouldn't it be this mental gymnastics that Marcel Reed has to go through with a new play caller? But I still want to hear, hey, he is dialed in. He's playing confident. He's got his feet in the ground. When Marcel Reed played confident, feet in the ground kind of football last year, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC and all of college football. If Marcel Reed takes that next step, A&M's going to have a really good chance to be in Atlanta. Full stop. Now, number 7, Ole Miss has got Trinidad Chambliss back. They got Kejuan Lacey back, which is huge. Pete Golding now taking over the show. So my question isn't really on the offensive side. I think you have arguably the best quarterback in college football back for you in Chambliss. I think at worst case, he's probably top 3. Kejuan Lacey, the most proven running back in college football, back for you. I want to hear the answer that you could get out of spring ball. That'd be huge for Ole Miss fans and for the SEC in general. Just some confident vibes around the Ole Miss front 7. Just hearing, hey, keep an eye on that front 7. Because last year, Ole Miss got to the doorstep of a national championship game without their head coach they'd had for the entirety of the year and with a defense that was allowing 4 or 5 yards a carry. Those two things don't usually go together. Giving up 4 to 5 yards a carry on defense and making the semifinals of the college football playoff, being not a Hail Mary, but like a long pass away from playing for a national championship with Trinidad Chambliss running the show. The offense is going to stay awesome. Barring something wildly unforeseen, the offense is going to score a lot of points. If the Ole Miss defense just provides a little bit of encouragement during spring practice, Ole Miss could be a team that finds themselves right back where they were this past year in the college football playoff, game away from a national championship. That's all very much so on the table because of who you have on the offensive side of the football. Now notice, Ole Miss, Kiffin's gone. They still did Ole Miss things in the portal. They didn't have like a top 10 class or anything crazy like that. But in that front 7, 9 new portal additions. Okay, one of those being Luke Frelly coming over from Clemson, which obviously was a story in its own. Bottom line, there is new individuals on this defense that should make for that yards per carry number to hopefully be in a different spot if you're an Ole Miss fan. The defense is my only question for Ole Miss. Offense, no questions. If the defense can be better than it was a year ago, here we go. Now, number 6, I got a question and an answer about Georgia here. Everyone's asking, can Georgia and Kirby get over the hump? Well, what kept them from getting over the hump last season? Wasn't Gunnar Stockton, for my money. Are there any questions about the offense? And contrary to what the buzz is always in Athens, Georgia, I don't think Mike Bobo is the problem. What was the problem last year? What was the problem in that final game for Georgia? That secondary, as talented as they were pretty young. They're pretty raw. Wasn't a lot of seasoning with that group. And you saw it multiple times, whether it be Ole Miss in round 1 when they played them in Athens, whether it be in the college football playoff where Trinidad Chambliss just put on an absolute show, whether it be when Tennessee went for like 350-plus through the air and Joey Aguilar and co., and they were fortunate to win that football game with Georgia. The secondary was not up to Kirby Smart's standard. But the personnel back now is nice. Ellis Robinson, he's back in the mix, came on in a big way last year towards the end of the season. KJ Bolden now has got more seasoning than a Cool Ranch Dorito you find at the bottom of the bag. Not a bad deal. I just want to hear the answer you could get. That'd be huge for college football and for the SEC is, hey, that's a Kirby Smart secondary. Because similar to the conversation we just had a second ago about Ole Miss, if the secondary is up to par, and up to par in Georgia is elite, if it's an elite secondary with that group and what Kirby Smart expects, Gunner's good enough to get you to an SEC championship or win an SEC championship. Did that last year. I don't think anybody in the right mind questions the running back room. Like, the offense is going to be fine. If the secondary can put a lid on some of those big plays that ended up being the Achilles heel for Georgia a season ago, they're going to be right back in the mix of playing for a national championship and everyone turning down their tone on Kirby Smart not being able to go win the big one in the 12-team era. Anyone that's saying that, I think you check his 2 national championships and maybe you rethink how you're approaching this. But we hear it. We hear the buzz around, well, the playoff expanded and NIL became a thing and Georgia's not winning as much anymore. Okay, if the secondary is elite, Georgia may win the whole darn thing. At number 5, South Carolina in here with one of the most impactful answers of the SEC. Lenoris Sellers, as underwhelming as last year was for him, I've said a couple of times on this show, like the Jason Mraz song, man, I won't give up on us. I won't, Lenoris. I can't quit you. I wish I could, but I can't. I've seen too many good things from him when it comes to him throwing grown men off of his just pass rush when he was in 2024 against Clemson, when he just straight up took over that A&M game. Like, LaNorris Sellers is good enough to will South Carolina to where they want to be. With that being said, even Batman needed a Robin, right? The answer I want to hear out of South Carolina that could shake up the entire SEC is if LaNorris Sellers has some help. They were 132nd last year in all of college football in sack rate allowed of 136 teams. It's tough to do anything with LaNorris Sellers at quarterback if that's the numbers on the offensive line. Like, Nicholas Harbor was good for you last year, came on in a big way, but we got to have something else to go with Nicholas Harbor. We need Nicholas Harbor to take that next step as a receiver. Now, he gets another spring practice, so you would hope that's the case. The bottom line here is if LaNorris Sellers has the help around him, by nature of this answer being at number 5, I think South Carolina can at least be in the conversation for Atlanta. I think more realistically, though, South Carolina could be a college football playoff team. Laugh it up. I hear you. I get where you're coming from. We welcome all the flack that's obviously coming our way saying something like that. But if LaNorris Sellers has some support, it's not that crazy. So that answer being number 5 is why it is where it is on this list. And number 4, hey, if LSU has the offensive line as a strength come out of spring practice, how big a deal is that for the rest of the SEC and college football in general? Because last year, LSU was one of the worst teams in all of college football when it came to rush yards per game and yards per carry. The offensive line was abysmal. Lane Kiffin shows up first day on the site in Baton Rouge and is like, yeah, this sucks. I got to go do what I do in the portal, go grab a Jordan Seaton, as well as a myriad of other offensive linemen for Sam Leavitt to work with here. I don't just want to hear the offensive line is serviceable, or can they be good enough? You want to know why? Because I heard that last year. I heard it last year. I got tricked by it last year, picking LSU to win the national championship. Hearing intel around fall camp, hey, they just got to be good enough. In hearing that, I understood it. It made sense. On paper, you tell yourself, hey, O-line, just be good enough. Quarterback, be good enough to make your offensive line right, was kind of the train of thought with Garrett Nussmeier being as experienced as he is. I'm not buying that again. The answer has got to be, no, this offensive line is more around the caliber of what we expect here now at LSU. Like Jordan Seaton, getting him through the transfer portal, he is worth every penny. Top 5 player in the portal, yeah, we hit big there. And not just did we hit big in Jordan Seaton, across the board now from a volume point of view. We got an offensive line that's going to handle business here in the SEC. Because that's where I got caught up last year. That's where I made an error outside of believing something that ended up not being true when it came to the logic of it all, which isn't anybody's fault, just kind of the way that this whole thing works. You look at things during fall camp, and sometimes they don't translate. But especially in the SEC, you can't be good enough on the offensive line and go win the kind of things that LSU wants to go win, expects to go win. Conference titles, college football playoff berths, you got to be elite on the offensive line. So if the answer is out of spring ball, hey, no, this offensive line, everything they purchased via the portal is tremendous ROI. LSU can go not just make the playoff. They can win the SEC year one under Lane Kiffin. And that would be a poetic conversation in and of itself, because everyone's questioning, should he have left Ole Miss? Why did he leave Ole Miss? He made the playoff last year with Ole Miss. He had that thing all the way tuned up and left. They go in the SEC in year one. It'll be because of that offensive line. It'll be because of what Lane Kiffin did via the portal. And I think that'll probably be a pretty good answer to that question of why did he leave Ole Miss? Has to happen, but that answer I think would be a big reason why. Alabama in the trenches at number 3 is the answer that Tide fans should get all the way fired up about. Same conversation we had about Tennessee a second ago with the quarterback battle kind of being distracting, being a little bit of a slide. Hey, look over here, look at the quarterback battle, and then someone comes around with the other hand and just slaps you in the face and says, offensive line wasn't good enough, defensive line wasn't good enough. I understand and also will co-sign the fact that the quarterback position for Alabama is going to be a huge story. It's massively important. But last year, Ty Simpson was, we've said a couple times on the show, one of, if not the best quarterback in college football for at least half the year. If you're picking different games out of a hat, probably had like 6 games where you say, yeah, he's probably the best quarterback in the sport right now. Now, Fernando Mendoza. I'm not here to relitigate that. The point I'm trying to make here is Keelan Russell or Austin Mack, do we have good faith they're going to replicate the kind of output that Ty Simpson had last year that allowed Alabama to go make the college football playoff. If you feel that way, God bless you. I envy your optimism. I'm one of the more optimistic persons in this space, but I have a hard time getting behind that. The thing for Alabama, by nature of this answer being so important, is are they back to having something on the offensive and defensive line that's going to be good enough to help that quarterback out? I'm getting fired up here, knocking this mic around for those of y'all watching on YouTube. Do they have something on the offensive line and defensive line to help whoever playing quarterback out a little bit? And also, do they have something on the offensive defensive line to keep them in the games they need to be in? Because as good as Ty Simpson was last year, you saw it when you line it up against Georgia to play for all the marbles in the conference. If you don't have the prerequisites on the defensive and offensive line, it's going to be a very long day. And it was a very long day. It was one of those days that had people questioning, should Alabama be in the college football playoff? Okay, so the reason why this is so high, on this list, think about the ripple effect of this answer being true and it not being true. If this is an answer we get out of spring practice that ends up being a reality for Alabama, and the offensive and defensive line are good enough, they took 11 transfers combined between the O-line and D-line over the course of this past cycle. If it's good enough, I think Keelan Russell or Austin Mack are good enough in their own right. If they get some allowance to grow throughout the course of a season, they can be good enough by November, I think, skill set-wise, to get you back to the college football playoff, which I think is kind of the price of admission for this season for Kalen DeBoer. If they aren't good enough, and it's more of the same, and it's Alabama can't run the ball, Alabama can't stop the run, I think things get very interesting in Tuscaloosa. Now, I'm not saying DeBoer's on the hot seat. I'm not saying DeBoer gets fired. I'm just saying now there has been a number of different times in the 20-plus games he's coached there where we have had serious conversations about what does his future at Bama look like. And if they miss the playoff for the second time in 3 years, and it goes back to Alabama not being physical enough, like, I don't want to do the whole thing where we compare DeBoer and Nick Saban because I think that's unfair. But I do think it's fair to look at the brand of ball Nick Saban's teams played. And Alabama Twitter coined this term, joyless murder ball, wasn't a misnomer. They made your life suck for 4 quarters because of how they ran the ball, how they stopped the run, got after your quarterback. The big human beings for Saban were always the calling card. And so what I'm am referring to when I speak to that is that fan base is conditioned to a certain style of ball or a certain style of physicality at least being available to them. And it wasn't last year. I think it was embarrassing. I think it struck a chord with a lot of Bama fans. I think it was a pride thing in a lot of ways. So if they're not good enough in the trenches, it gets uncomfortable. All I'm going to say, it gets uncomfortable. Not telling you he loses his job. Again, not telling you that he's on the hot seat. I'm just saying it gets really uncomfortable. And I think it gets uncomfortable here pretty quickly for Alabama. All right, so the impact there is massive, either side of what Bama has in the trenches. Second most impactful answer we could get out of spring practice across the SEC is Johnny Mateer. Johnny Headband. Johnny Paycheck. If he's back to his September self from last season, Oklahoma's back in the playoff. Let me say this too with my chest. Oklahoma is a national championship contender if that answer is true out of spring ball. JD, come on, you saw what happened in the playoff game, right? JD, the offense was anemic at the end of last season. 17 points the last 2 games. You think that team can go win a national championship? I do if John Mateer's in his bag like that. Because here's the thing with us as college football fans. First off, I love us. I love us. I will take us over every other fan base of any other sport in the history of the world. All right, let me say that. However, we have a really short freaking memory on these things. We have a really short memory. We forget so quickly how awesome John Mateer was during the first month of the season. We forget super quickly that John Mateer was out here slicing and dicing when he had a thumb that was certainly connected to his throwing hand. Now, he came back too quickly from that surgery. Dr. Shin did his best to try and get my guy back right, and whether it was a thing where he didn't trust his thumb when he came back from injury mentally, whether it was a thing where it was still getting back physically, I don't know what it was, but he was a different player post-thumb surgery than he was pre-thumb surgery. So going back to my whole thing about us as college football fans with our memory, that John Mateer that we saw against Michigan, where he was absolutely dime dealing, I mean, dealing the pill like a shady pharmacist in every single sense of the phrase, that John Mateer with that Brent Venables defense is good enough to go win you a national championship. Full stop. Also, the run game can't be as bad as it was last year. Neither here nor there. That's why this is so high up in these rankings of most impactful answers during spring practice. If we hear, hey, John Mateer, he's all the way healthy, he's got his swagger back, got a different sense about himself. Here, year 4 in Ben Arbuckle's system, too, from Washington State, now at Oklahoma. They're good enough to go get that done. Make no mistake about it, okay? Because that John Mateer we saw against Michigan, too. I'll say this last point on John Mateer before we move on to our biggest answer of spring ball out of the SEC. That John Mateer that we saw against Michigan, it'd be one thing if we got into the rest of the season and we're looking at Michigan like, oh, actually, they kind of suck. Oh, actually, kind of like that LSU Clemson game where we thought LSU beating Clemson was like this flag plant moment for Brian Kelly at LSU, and LSU was going to go be a team that made me right and win the national championship. It really aged poorly because Clemson was a shell of themselves, was a shadow of what we thought they were going to be in the preseason. That wasn't Michigan's defense last year, y'all. Michigan had one of the best defenses in college football a season ago, and John Mateer ate them alive in that game. I know the numbers from the offense don't prove it, but what he did, the throws that he was making, the way he was seeing things, the plays he made with his legs, it wasn't a thing where we all got duped by week 2 and just Oklahoma as a whole and the offense wasn't good enough. Offense wasn't good enough down the stretch because John Mateer wasn't healthy enough or good enough in his own right. Michigan defense was a good litmus test. So the point of all this is John Mateer, if he's back in his bag, he is good enough to win Oklahoma a national championship, if that's the answer we get out of spring ball. Now, the number one answer we could get out of spring ball in the SEC is the Texas offense is back to their ways. I'll be wildly surprised if we're sitting here during the month of November and we're saying, hey, Arch was great, Cam Coleman was awesome, but gosh, that defense wasn't good enough. Yeah, I don't know what it was, man. Defense wasn't good enough. Will Muschamp just must not have the juice like he used to. Colin Simmons was kind of Like, I don't know what's up with Texas, man. They don't have the juice like they used to on the defensive side of the football. That defense is going to be good enough. Now, I want to go back to what I said about this answer. The Texas offense getting back to their ways. Texas as an offense getting back to their ways isn't them scoring like, 30 a game. Texas being back in their bag with Steve Sarkisian calling the show is a lot closer to 40 points a game. North of 35 at least. If that's the case, everything that we've thought about Arch Manning to be true since he was a prospect at the high school level, everything we thought about Cam Coleman to be true, same thing since he got to Auburn, everything we thought to be true about Sark as a play caller, about what they got in the portal at the running back position, all of those things then maxed out in a very real way over the course of the season, which I think would equate to Texas at least playing for a national championship. Okay, so we'll see what happens there. But Texas as an offense, all the ingredients are there. This is something during spring ball that I think we're going to get a good gauge on of, hey, Arch looks different right now. Hey, Arch as a whole, yes, he's always been talented, and we were hearing that last spring. But like similar to what we said about Marcel Reed, similar thing we said about what we want to hear out of spring ball at Miami with Darian Mensah, you just get a really good gauge during spring practice as to how special a year a quarterback is going to have. Not that you can write it in ink or that it's a 100% certainty, but you get a pretty good gauge of like, okay, this dude has a light bulb that's come on for him from what last year was to this year, whether it be the system, the personnel, whatever it is. And so if that's the case with Arch Manning, during spring practice, you're not regressing during fall camp or during the first 4 weeks of the season or during November. Like you are, I think, very much so setting a floor for what you are for next season during spring ball. So if Arch Manning's floor is high enough to where we're saying Texas as an offense is back, and they're back in their bag and back to what Sark expects them to be, and back to what they went into the portal to be, Texas could go play for and win a national championship. All right, so not calling our shot, but that's a potentially huge answer out of spring practice that would shake up the SEC and shake up college football as a whole. All right, so let me know what we missed there. What is something that would be an answer for you across SEC country that would be more impactful or as impactful of any of those 10 things we just listed across the Southeastern Conference? Looking forward to hearing y'all's thoughts, all right? Now, I also want to make sure y'all know that with this show being brought to you by BetMGM, they got something for you here for a certain college basketball tournament going down during the month of March. There's no better place to be during March matchups than Las Vegas, also home to the national title game for college football in 2027, neither here nor there. This year, college basketball fans can win a VIP trip to the Court of Legends event. Simply place sports bets, and your position on the leaderboard will determine if you win one of the 25 grand prize packages. Just sign into your BetMGM account, opt into the promotion, then start placing sports bets of at least $10 to climb the leaderboard. Make this March one to remember. Join the Court of Legends leaderboard and make it legendary, baby. Appreciate BetMGM and appreciate the Court of Legends for bringing the juice here this March. Now, with it being March, I told y'all, every Tuesday, I'll rephrase that, every first Tuesday of the month, I should say, we get closer to college football season, okay? And so with the calendar turning into a new month, I'm going to give you my declarations, my predictions, if you will, for what I'm ready to say about the 2026 college football season. Let's start in Gainesville, Florida. I'm ready to say during the month of March that the Florida Gators under John Summerall in year one maybe not make the playoff, maybe not win the SEC, but y'all, they're going to ruin somebody's college football playoff dreams. In short, John Summerall in Florida are going to commit a homicide on somebody's aspirations to make the college football playoff, okay? Now, why do I use that phrasing? Homicide, murder, not something we really traffic in too much on this show, but there's a reason for that. Whenever you watch those like murder mystery shows, a couple of my favorite, Monk on USA was a big one. Psych, big one for me. You always hear the detectives talk about three things when it comes to committing one of those crimes. Got to have means, motive, opportunity. Y'all look at Florida, they got all three when it comes to putting somebody's college football playoff dreams in the dirt, all right? Start with opportunity. All over the place for the Gators, man. The opportunities are endless. Just look at the schedule they have. The teams that they think will be in the college football playoff mix, that have to believe I'm John Summerall, include Ole Miss, at Missouri, at Texas, Georgia and Atlanta, Oklahoma. Like, what? Missouri, if you want to go ahead and count them into this group, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that think they have a good shot to make the college football playoff. Also, too, a bunch of those games at home in Ole Miss and Oklahoma. Oklahoma goes to the Swamp in November. That's one of the last places I'd want to play. So in terms of opportunities for Florida, they're going to have a lot of shots on goal here when it comes to taking down somebody's chances at making the college football playoff. Think I'm crazy? Florida wasn't that good last year. It's a big reason why John Summerall's there this year. Florida did this last season. Everyone's talking about Texas and how they shouldn't have played Ohio State, this, that, and the other. No, you should have beat Florida at Florida. And then you're a college football playoff team. Now, the Texas-Ohio State thing's a different discussion, but you go look at Texas. If they had beat Florida in the Swamp, they would have been 10-2. 10-2 Texas is getting the college football playoff. No more discussion about it. So this is kind of a trait that Florida has in general just because of the home field advantage they're always going to have at their back with the Swamp. But the next thing with this whole discussion around Florida, being able to destroy somebody's college football playoff dreams, Florida's got the means here. Okay, again, means, motive, opportunity. The means for Florida is they are going to just suck to play, dude. They are. Look who their head coach is. Head coach is a former linebacker in the SEC. He's now your head coach, and he acts like he's a former linebacker in the SEC. We're going to have him on the show this week, actually. I cannot wait to sit down and talk to him because every interview I've heard him have is energy, intensity. We're going to take every single blade of grass and make it ours. Like that whole just energy that John Summerall has, got some crazy linebacker to him. I think that's going to be how Florida plays this year. And I'm not saying Florida's going to just be this monster in the SEC, but I know they're going to be tough to beat. I know they're going to be a team to where when you play them on that Saturday, you wake up on that Sunday, you are going to feel it all over your body. Okay? The style of ball they play, too, with Jaden Baugh running the rock, I think Florida just schematically is going to make it really hard on opposing offenses when it comes to limiting their possessions. Like John Summerall, I've said a couple times about his opening presser because I think it stuck out to a lot of people, stuck out to me. Speaking about retaining Jaden Baugh and his effort to do so, which he ultimately did, he says, I saw number 13 out there. I would have given him the football 10 more times against Florida State. Y'all, Jaden Baugh carried the ball 38 times against Florida State. So John Summerall, in tongue-in-cheek, whether it's real or not, is saying, I would give the football to Jaden Baugh in the neighborhood of 50 times. If that's the way that Florida plays and they do so at an effective level, you're not getting a whole lot of touches for your offense. You're in a whole lot of rock fights, street fights, and if it's a street fight, I'll take the team that brings back top 25 defensive snaps in all of college football. Still a talented roster, and with a team that's persona is going to be crazy linebacker-ish. Okay, the means for Florida to be able to take down one of those teams and ruin their college football playoff aspirations, it's very much so real. Very much so intact there. So motive is the last part here for Florida. I think that they're in a super interesting spot here year one under John Summerall, because the last couple of off seasons, what have we said about Florida? Well, hey, there's pressure on Billy Napier to get it done this year. Hey, there's pressure on the Gators to bring that logo back to prominence. If not now, then when? It's been a lot of high-pressure talk. There's still pressure because it's the University of Florida, and that's a place that expects to win and win sooner rather than later. But the pressure is more so, hey, just get back in the mix. Hey, just make it a brand of something for us to be proud of as a fan base. Get back to playing Florida Gator football where what I just said, we're knocking your block off every other snap offensively or defensively, and you have to deal with us. Like, make it that, Florida. And so it's this weird blend in year one for John Summerall when it comes to motive of intensity meets pride, meets eagerness to get back to where they expect to be, but also it's kind of a house money feel. Like, I keep saying Florida doesn't need to go win the SEC, and Florida fans are probably a little bit irritated hearing that because it sounds like condescending speak. It's really not. It's just the freedom to say, hey, Florida, you're not having the expectations of go put Florida in the college football playoff your first year as new head coach, John Summerall. We're not saying that. Nobody's saying that. And so when there's a certain level of freedom and also, I think, matched with the equal level of hunger for Florida, I think that's a really dangerous mix. Like, let's go ahead and say you're playing Oklahoma in the Swamp in the month of November, and Oklahoma's sitting there with 2 losses already. Again, I just told you a segment before that I think Oklahoma, if John Mateer's on his P's and Q's, is good enough to win a national championship. But let's just say you got to go to the Swamp and you are on the back end line of your chances to make the college football playoff, much like you were this past November. You don't think Florida and John Summerall is going to take a certain level of pride in knocking off a team that has a chance to make the playoff? You don't think rolling into the Swamp with won't back down playing in the fourth quarter doesn't bring a little extra juice for that team that's trying to push Florida back to where they want to be from a just mystique perspective? I think it plays. I really think it plays. So bottom line, Florida's going to have a lot of opportunities here to take down one of those playoff teams or playoff aspiring teams, whether it's on the road, whether it's neutral site, doesn't matter. Zoom out from what I just said a second ago to Florida being able to take down one of those teams to what that would mean for Florida going into 2027. Now, Florida fans, I understand this. You're not looking at 27. You're all about right now. You're all about Philo being awesome and Jaden Bobb being awesome again. All these, I hear that. I'm not trying to get ahead of my skis. But I am just saying, if you do what I think you're going to do, what I'm ready to say you're going to do during the month of March heading into next season, which is take someone down that aspires to be a playoff team, what is that for Florida? It's a snapshot of a marketable moment that John Summerall can put on a recruiting flyer or walk into any living room and say, here's where we're going. My first year, but guess what? We beat Texas again. Hey, guess what? We beat Oklahoma. Hey, guess what? We beat Georgia. Pick any team you want to pick. It doesn't matter to me. Pick one of those teams. If you can say that after year one and cast some vision for year two, it's only going to get easier to add top-tier talent. And if you listen to John Summerall speak, I don't think anybody in their right mind is projecting him to have any issues when it comes to making people believe in what he's going to be as a head coach and what Florida's going to be under his foresight, all right? Also, look at the guys he's retained. Dallas Wilson, Jaden Bobb, guys that have probably been tampered with since October of this past season. He can recruit just fine. He can connect just fine. But if he has some proof of concept to go with it, okay, Florida, here we go. Here we go. We lay a foundation first. We build upwards, see where we land from there. So right now, I'm ready to say Florida will take down somebody's chances at making the playoff. They got means, they got motive, they got opportunity. Gator boys looking to get hot. I know the basketball team is staying hot. Gator boys looking to get hot. We're all the way here for it. All right. Now, speaking of staying hot and getting hotter, Dante Moore was on Fuego last year. Looking at a lot of the mock drafts before he ended up coming back to Oregon, everyone's saying, hey, Dante Moore, is he the number 2 overall pick? I know there were some people that were saying, even after the Indiana game, of like, hey, I know the Indiana game went how it went, but let's just see how the combine process goes. Let's just see what the pro day looks like. Let's just see where Dante Moore is when the dust settles. Maybe, just maybe, you divide the room a little bit and say Dante Moore is in the conversation more to be the top overall pick. I guess we'll never know because he came back to school. We're all the way here for it. But I'm ready to say during the month of March, Dante Moore will be even better than he was last season going into 2026. Now, that's a big statement. And a big statement now is something that I think Oregon fans will keep a pretty strong pulse on, okay, when it comes to intel during spring ball and what's being said around national circles. I'll just say this. If you want to have all the intel at a national level, got a deal for you. $20, national subscription for On3 and Rivals. Well, two birds, one stone. Two ducks, one stone action. Okay, if you want access to what Pete Nakos is hearing across the country, including and not limited to Dante Moore, get that membership. If you want to hear what Steve Wiltfong is saying around Oregon recruiting, get that membership. I wouldn't tell you all about it if it wasn't a great deal. Okay, I'm here for great deals. I'm here to give y'all great deals, make you aware of great deals, nothing else. Make sure you're ahead of the group chat. National subscription, On3 and Rivals, $20. Feels like theft, not theft, completely legal. Something that we got going as it stands right now. So going back to my point here, Dante Moore is going to be better than he was last year going into next year. And the reason for that is because Dante Moore has actually said a version of this before. Because what's Dante Moore saying by coming back to Oregon? A lot of people are saying, oh, he's just saying I can't wait to have that Phil Knight money in my pocket. I hear you. I get that. But, like, y'all, if you're the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft, your money is more real than it would be playing quarterback in any college. And I know Oregon's well taken care of, but, like, let's be adults about this. NFL money at the number 2 overall pick, pretty good. Okay? So what I think Dante Moore is saying for the second time in his career is, hey, I can get even better. Hey, I got more to work on, more to develop. I think I can play even better myself. Now, he said this before with his actions by transferring from UCLA to Oregon. Those of y'all already know the story, but let me tell you again. Dante Moore, out of high school, a priority for him, coming from the state of Michigan, is to play somewhere early. UCLA presented that opportunity. He goes there, starts 4 games. Doesn't go that great. Whether it's a Dante Moore thing or a UCLA thing, who's to say? But Dante Moore felt like it was enough of a him thing to say, I want to go somewhere else. And I want to go somewhere else and sit for a year. So he goes to Oregon, gets paid, but he goes to Oregon, sits for a year behind Dylan Gabriel, and then pops up this past season and has a year we're all talking about him being a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. He's 1 for 1 on statements saying, I can and need to get better. He's made good on that before, going from UCLA to Oregon. So check that box. If he's saying that again with his actions of saying, I want to come back to Oregon, and maybe he just doesn't want to be a New York Jet, and if that's the case, more money to him. But if he's coming back to Oregon saying the same thing, I feel inclined to believe him, especially if you're packing up or passing up on being the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. That's an intentional move to make. Like, it'd be one thing if Dante Moore, after the Indiana game, you had a lot of people saying, I think he's maybe a late first rounder, maybe he's a second rounder. If it was a conversation of, hey, maybe he's not going to go as high in the draft as he thinks he's going to go, and then he comes back, okay, we can talk about that. This was an intentional move saying, I need to come back because I think I can get better. I have more that I want to improve on. Oregon's the place to do that. This is something Caden and I talked about a lot over the course of the last couple of weeks. Caden Smith nailed this. We talked about it via text. Do we all realize how dinged up Oregon's offense was last season? Like, as good as Dante Moore was, threw 30 touchdown passes, as good as he was, a lot of the time he didn't have his starters in the mix with him. Like, Kenyon Sadiq's probably going to be a first-round pick at tight end. He was healthy, it felt like half the year. Oregon fans telling me exactly what the numbers were, but it felt like I was watching a lot of these big games. I'm like, where's Kenyon Sadiq at right now? DeCorian Moore, who I think is the most talented receiver on Oregon's roster a year ago, even as a true freshman, not available a lot of the year. Evan Stewart was never available for any of the year, and that sucks for Dante Moore. But the point I'm trying to make is running back room, too. College football playoff game against Indiana. We got nobody back there to run the football for us. That was experienced, at least. That's 2 prongs in terms of impact for Dante Moore being better next year. Some of that is just like, hey, I don't have my best players on the field with me. And you knock on wood, and you say your prayers tonight if you're an Oregon fan, and just hope that DeCorian Moore is healthy for all of next year, and that all the starters for Oregon are healthy for all of next year on the offensive side of the football. That's the obvious part. I think maybe more important for Dante Moore and how he's going to be better next year is the ability to stay in rhythm and have chemistry over the course of a year with your starters in your system. Because as good as Kenyon Sadiq is and as good as he would have been last year for the offense, he's gone to the NFL to make millions upon millions of dollars. So even if you thought Kenyon Sadiq was the difference last year, you can't say he's going to be the difference next year. But I do think whoever it is, being in the lineup with Dante Moore for the entirety of their 14-week season, I think that matters. I'm old school, man. I think repetition is the mother of learning, and I think you get repetition with the same people, you get better and you improve. So having that be in place for him over the course of a full season, who's to say he won't get better from just that alone? And then going back to what I said a second ago about repetition, anything you do for an extended period of time, the longer you do it, you get better at it. Dante Moore has now started 20 college football games. You don't think he's going to be better by start 23 or 24 than he was at start 16? I think so. We're going on now year 4 of doing this show here at On3. I like to think now we've gotten better at formatting it, scripting it, delivering it than we were in year 2 and year 1. Just the longer you do something, time on task, you're going to get better at it. And so for Dante Moore, time on task in the same system now, different play caller, same system, I think he's going to get better at it. Second year starting quarterback in the Big Ten, I think he's going to get better at it. And so I understand there's a lot of excitement around a number of different teams and quarterbacks next season, but I'll stand by this. I think with Dante Moore and the body of work he has right now and the resume that, quite frankly, Dan Lanning has as a head coach with the quarterbacks that he's elevated during his time in Eugene with different coordinators, it is very difficult to say authoritatively there is a more true and sure thing in college football than what Dante Moore is as the quarterback for the Oregon Ducks. And I think that's only going to get better going into next season. He's telling you it's going to be the case by him coming back for another year. Hey, I can get better. Last time he said that, he did get better. Offense staying healthy, being stable for him, you would think would only make for better production for him. And then again, time on task, man. Call it old school. I know people are into the virtual reality these days, and everyone's doing different things with how they're learning the schemes. You play football, you get better at football. That's my opinion, at least, all right? So Dante Moore, I fully believe, will be better this year than he was last year, and I'm ready to say that during the month of March, ahead of 2026, all right? Now, this is a prediction that I'm arguably more sure about than any we've done on the show since the national title game ended, and it hurts my heart to say that to y'all. I'm ready to say during the month of March that 2026 will be the last year for us as college football fans of the 12-team playoff. Listen, I hate that. I'm not here for that. Those of y'all that have watched this show since our days at the Brentwood studio here at On3, or back to the days we were shooting this in a lobby in Waco, Texas, you've heard me say this many a time in different ways. The playoff does not need to go past 4 teams. 4 is fine. Now, 12 was fun this past year. I think last year was a great year for 12. I think Portal and NIL is making 12 a good number to stay at. But, y'all, I got the bad news. It's probably going to go past 12 after the season. So enjoy it. Cherish it. Tell your people to do the same thing. And if you feel so inclined, if you're a watch party person, enjoy the 12-team playoff with them via watch party. But a couple of reasons as to why I feel really strongly about this being the case. First of all, the calendar says so. The powers that be say so. The structure says so. This is the last year, contractually, to my understanding, of the college football playoff format of what it is right now. Now, important to note, last year was also supposed to be the last year of the 12-team playoff. So maybe you're hearing that and saying, wait a second, JD, last year's supposed to be the last year, but we went to 12 again next year. That must be a glimmer of hope, right? I think it's in the eye of the beholder. I think it's more important to say that they stayed at 12 not because they couldn't agree on to expand it or not expand it. They couldn't agree on what to expand it to. You got the Big Ten out here in right field saying 24 teams. The SEC is like, let's go to 16. The Big Ten's like, cool, we'll go to 16 first and then 24, right? They're like, no, not yet. So basically they were bickering about how much to expand it. And so at the end of the day, the dust settled and they were like, hey, you know what? Let's just stay at 12 for this year. We'll do this whole thing again next December or next January, whatever it is. Y'all just we're too close to the edge right now, y'all. We're too close to all this playoff conversation and floating new ideas of what the playoff's going to look like in the future and different structures and expansion and all that. It's getting kind of late, it feels like, in the proverbial day of this college football playoff structure conversation. The later things get in the day, the more that bad ideas start to sound like good ideas. I can say this for myself. In high school now, got the boys over at the house. We're hanging out. At that point in time, I think like my sister, who at that point was a college freshman or sophomore, my mom thought it was a good idea to buy her a taser. Self-defense. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and give sister a taser to where if anybody is acting weird on her college campus and wants to be a weirdo about it, she's prepared to defend herself. That's sitting in the kitchen drawer of our house. So like 5 p.m., crazy, sister has a taser. That's wild. 8 p.m. rolls around. 10 p.m. rolls around. We're like, should we try the taser on one of us? Like, it's a stupid idea. That's a ridiculous thing to do. But the later things get in the day, the more that you're like, I've sat with this idea for a long time. I've kind of explored the different facets of it. Maybe, just maybe, I should go with this bad idea. Now, we didn't actually end up going with the taser, and praise the Lord we didn't. But the point I'm trying to make is the same thing is, I think, true right now for the college football structure discussion we're having right now. We've sat with this idea so long of, well, is 12 right? Well, if we had 16, it'd look like this. Well, 24, maybe 24 is right. Like we've floated so many different numbers of teams out there for a playoff format to where, like, I don't know that the fatigue of that conversation isn't opening the door to us just making a poor decision when it comes to this playoff. And again, they already want to go to past 12, so is it going to go past 12 in this next conversation they have with the powers that be in the month of December and January? My gut is I think so. Also, let's go to Conspiracy Corner really quick. Optics around conference title games suck right now, guys. And I hate that because I love waking up on a conference title Saturday and just inhaling the entire full slate of college football. I think it's like the last full Saturday slate we get as college football sickos, neither here nor there. The optics are not great. I think if you're a coach or an AD, you're saying, why would we play in a conference title game? It gives us more opportunity to get hurt, okay? And it also puts more tread on the tires for our football team to where, let's just say we don't win that game. We got to turn around and play a first-round game in a shorter period of time. Even if we win our conference title game, there's only been one team in the history of the 12-team playoff, the 2 years we've had it, to win their conference title game and then go on and have success in the college football playoff. And we're having a real discussion about, was that the best team in college football history in Indiana? I don't know, but I think that's out there. The fact that we're all jealous of Notre Dame right now, whether we want to believe it or not or say it out loud or not, people are jealous of Notre Dame not having to play a conference title game in a lot of ways. And you look at these new playoff expansion ideas, everyone that I've seen at least has the play-in structure instead of a conference title structure for that weekend. Meaning, like, if you got 4 bids for respective conference, the team in 3 and 6 are playing each other, and 2 and 5 are playing each other. I messed that up. 3 and 6 are playing each other, 4 and 5 are playing each other, 1 and 2 get a bye to the college football playoff. A play-in structure, as opposed to a conference title structure, is what's being talked about. So if we're already that close to that edge of a new playoff format with that many teams, I think we're already so far down the road to where it's going to happen at some point in time. So I don't like it. I've said many a time, I think staying at 12 is as far as I'd be willing to go in this playoff era. I would have been fine staying at 4 teams in the college football playoff era. The minute we go past the 12-team playoff, I think we are dangerously close, and maybe even into the abyss of the playoff is no longer about crowning a national champion. It's about everything but that, seemingly. Which I know that's kind of what the 12-team playoff is, but we just so happen to have the intersection of portal and NIL for us college football fans that kind of saved the 12-team playoff being still a good mechanism to crown a national champion. But, man, we are flirting with a world where we don't have enough contenders as we do playoff spots. And I think we're maybe even in that spot right now with how this playoff is structured. So last year, the 12-team playoff, y'all, soak it in, not official, but I'm ready to say that during the month of March as it pertains to next season. Okay? Now, Chris Lowe of On3 sat down with Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel, full conversation, talked about the state of the program, talked about a number of different things. I won't spoil it. Go ahead and check it out on on3.com. Chris Lowe, one of the best in the business. But there was something that Josh Heupel said, got the people going a little bit across the social media world. Josh Heupel said that he prefers the 2014 playoff idea when it looks to the future of the college football playoff in general. And this kind of got a weird reaction, in my opinion. I'll unpack it right now on this very platform, the On3 YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. If you're watching the full show, you're a real one. We appreciate you. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But if you're watching this as a one-off clip, we got full hour-long shows for you, baby. Want you a part of it. Want you in the sicko corner here that is this show of the college football universe. So follow here, follow on the podcast, follow on the socials, Instagram, Twitter, at JD PicKell. College football does not stop. This show doesn't either, and appreciate you being subscribed, all right? So as I was saying, Josh Heupel says this. On3 tweets it out. It's a big soundbite. A SEC head coach talking about the future of the playoff and saying he prefers the 2014 format because he thinks that's the way that the sport is trending when it comes to parity and all these things. And the reaction was, what is Josh Heupel doing? That's way too many teams. Like, everyone from the media side was very quick to address what Josh Heupel had to say, as if Josh Heupel was Kirk Herbstreit saying that or Joel Klatt saying that. We almost forget the source of where this is coming from. Josh Heupel is not a college football analyst. Josh Heupel is a college football head coach. Josh Heupel is not speaking for what he believes is quote-unquote best for the sport. And you know what? That's not his job. People came after Josh Heupel because he was in support of something that people believe wasn't good for college football. You know who a 2014 playoff would be good for? Tennessee. Like, I heard somebody say it's idiotic for anyone to believe that a 2014 playoff is good for college football. It'd be idiotic if I was a head coach and I wanted a lesser chance of making the college football playoff. Like, do we understand this? Josh Heupel, I don't know his contract inside and out. I would take a wild guess and feel pretty confident saying that there's an incentive structure for Josh Heupel if Tennessee makes the college football playoff. Is that not easier, making the 2014 playoff? Like, Josh Heupel's job is to get Tennessee to the top of the college football world. He said as much to Chris Lowe. He's like, I think I can take this place to go to win a national championship. Again, I think I can do that. Okay, well, it's a lot easier when your ticket to the dance has a lower threshold, right? When the price of admission to that dance is a lower price point, probably a better world for you, right? Makes it a lot more attainable, right? Like, I don't understand why everyone got so out of whack with Josh Heupel saying a 2014 playoff is something he prefers. I'd prefer it too if I was a college football head coach. Matter of fact, I'd want 84 teams in the college football playoff. Now, I've said this too, sitting in my seat, being privileged enough and lucky enough to cover the sport and just talk about what I think is best for college football, I would hate it. As we just said before in the previous segment, even 12 teams to me is a bit rich. I was down with 4 teams, neither here nor there. I will just give this concession to what Josh Heupel is saying. Him saying the sport is trending towards a 2014 playoff being good for the sport. While I disagree with the sentiment that 24 teams is the right playoff structure, the idea that parity is trending up and shows no sign of dipping is a true statement. So just to kind of be devil's advocate here and to at least validate what Josh Heupel is saying in some small way, while I disagree, I think you're also out to lunch if you don't think there's a world where we could have a number of different teams, if it keeps trending this way, north of 12 teams, call it 16, 18 teams, that could potentially compete for a national championship. I don't think that's going to happen, but if you told me that was going to happen in 10 to 15 years, I would have more questions, but I think it's a not out to lunch or unreasonable take to have. Okay, so I disagree. I don't fall on that side of the fence, but I do understand some of the logic there. Okay, now, I do just want to say this, too, as we give our final thoughts here on Josh Heupel and this whole discussion. Hey, we're going to get there at some point if nobody steps up and nobody's in charge. You know? Like, we did the whole conversation around give a mouse a cookie, which is kind of where we're at right now with March Madness, talking about going to 76 or 78 teams. Currently, they have a 64-team playoff, 68-team playoff, whatever it is for college basketball. They're going to keep adding on until somebody steps in and says, you know what, no, my job is to look out for the sport. We're not down for a 78-team playoff, a 24-team playoff. If nobody steps in, we will get to 24 teams. I promise you. I promise you. Okay? It's not a matter of could you do something if you got into the playoff. It's do you deserve to be in the playoff. It's did you meet the prerequisites to get into this school. It's why college admissions programs have different SAT and ACT standards and GPA standards. It's because we know that if you were below our requirements from a certain extent, you probably could get in and graduate and do okay. But it's best for everyone, for the prestige of this thing we have going here, this university and this playoff. It's best for all parties if we stick to that standard, that structure as much as possible. So I don't knock Josh Heupel for having this take. If I was a head coach, I'd say the exact same thing. The outrage around this thought, or maybe outrage is a strong word, but the pushback saying Josh Heupel's so wrong for saying this, Josh Heupel's not Kirk Herbstreit. Josh Heupel's not an analyst paid to cover the sport and do what's best for the sport. Josh Heupel is paid to win Tennessee football games, which he's done at a high level, mind you. So I get where you're coming from. I understand the pushback, but 2014 playoff from a head coach in college football, I'd want the exact same thing. Not that wild to say. All right? Let's round out with this thought here around what Ohio State did at the NFL Combine. Hey, let us know in the comment section, too, how much NFL draft content you want. I like the NFL draft. This is a show that is for college football sickos, by college football sickos. This is a show for y'all, the audience. So if you want more NFL draft content, the best way to let us know that, I suppose, would be subscribing to this channel via this video because we can see the numbers behind it. Also, just commenting, hey, more NFL draft talk, please. We will respond accordingly. But if you watched the Combine this past week, a lot of dudes with Ohio State in their lower third that blew that thing up, man. Most notably, Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State. He might have had the best Combine of all time. And again, I'm not a Combine expert, but seeing what that dude did, being 6'5", 6'4", whatever he is, 244 pounds, inverting 43 inches, and running the 40 that he ran, do we understand how ridiculous that is? And it wasn't just him. It was also his brother, who converted from receiver, transferring from Notre Dame to Ohio State, playing defensive back, running sub 4.3. Arvell Reese blowing that thing up as well. Like, Ohio State's going to have, per Daniel Jeremiah now, 5 of the first 10 picks of the NFL draft. And that's not a coincidence. So, well, that's huge for, the NFL teams that draft these guys, huge for those respective individuals in terms of the Styles brothers and Arvell Reese and every other Buckeye that balled out the Combine. Good for them. You zoom out as a college football fan, if I'm Ryan Day, this is my number one pitch I'm making on the recruiting trail. High school, portal, anywhere. I am saying, hey, listen, come to Ohio State. We're going to develop you. If you're considering Ohio State, NIL is obviously part of the discussion because it means you're probably a 4 or 5 star guy. You probably got bags on the table from all across the country. Money has got to be comparable. Guess what? It's Ohio State. They're good for it. Okay, brand, obviously Ohio State, never going to be a conversation around, do you have enough prestige for us? Do I get excited about rocking those colors in this shoe? Is there a track record for me to go have success there? There's legends all over the place. There's Buckeye trees all over the place for the All-Americans they've had out there in Columbus. Like, you don't have to wonder, can I accomplish what I want to accomplish here? But looking at what Ohio State did at the Combine, looking at Sonny Styles and what he was as a high school guy and what he was when he left Ohio State, Mickey Marotti, the strength coach for Ohio State out there, he needs to take a freaking bow, man. Because Sonny Styles, there's a great graphic from a UC report out there, and it talked about, or chronicles rather, what Sonny Styles did as a prospect going to Ohio State and what he was at the NFL Combine. Sonny Styles added darn near a foot to his vertical jump. Sonny Styles added 30 pounds going from safety to linebacker. Sonny Styles dropped multiple tenths off his 40-yard dash. And I think some of this you just say, hey, God gave Sonny Styles and Lorenzo Styles some things that he didn't give other human beings. Totally fair. But I don't care who you are. Dropping a foot or adding a foot to your vertical, dropping tenths off your 40, as Sonny Styles did after adding 30 pounds from a high school guy to being an NFL guy now, like, that doesn't happen without an elite strength and conditioning program. Okay, and that's the thing too, is like, if I'm Ohio State, you're always going to attract top talent, but when you look at the guys that are balling on Sundays right now, that's a development thing. Like, not just the NFL Combine. Look at Jackson Smith and Jigba. Look at the Bosa brothers. Like, I promise you, Jeremiah Smith, when it's his time to go pro, he'll be awesome. Trevion Henderson as a true freshman, as a rookie last year for the New England Patriots, he was awesome. Like, there is legitimate development teeth for the Ohio State Buckeyes and how it translates to Sundays that I think should be a major differentiating factor for anybody considering the Buckeyes as a high school or portal prospect. And I think you hear a lot of this across social media. Some of this is just bitter fans being bitter fans and petty people being petty, which, quite frankly, I'm here for. It's what makes college football and social media so awesome. But whenever you see Ohio State land a top-tier guy, there's going to be at least somebody in the comment section, one or two, that say, dropped a bag. NIL popping up for the Buckeyes, good for them. And I've said this a couple of times. Yeah, it's college football in 2026. They better be willing to drop a bag, first of all. Second of all, that doesn't guarantee you anything when you land a kid for X amount of dollars via NIL. Guarantees nothing. Once you get the kid on campus, guess what? That money doesn't really matter anymore. Just because you paid them a couple $1 million, if you did, doesn't mean they're going to go score more touchdowns for you or be more locked in during practice or be a great leader or reach their potential. You have to have the right systems in place. And Ohio State, by nature of that NFL Combine showing we just saw from them, they're doing the right things. Like, that's my pitch from Ryan Day. We will get you here, and when you're here, if you commit to our process, you will get the most out of your potential. Like, going back to Lorenzo Styles, which I think is one of the more underrated stories across the Combine right now. He transferred from Notre Dame as a receiver. I already mentioned this, but I think it's crazy. To be invited to the Combine and to play for Ohio State in the secondary after playing receiver to start your college career at another more or less P4 school in Notre Dame. Not in the conference you hear I'm coming from. High-profile school in Notre Dame. That's development in itself. To learn a brand new position at a brand new place and to be good enough to where NFL scouts vote to say, no, we want to see him in Indy and to perform like that, that's development, which Ryan Day and this strength staff clearly have a good handle on, okay? So I think that when you zoom out of just the Ohio State conversation, this tells us kind of where we are in college football right now too. A lot of people are quick to ask the question, oh, well, could Saban have done it in the era we're in right now? Fair question. Lots different about this era than that era that Saban was in. Expanded playoff, NIL, portal, all that's true. You want to know why Saban was so elite at Bama? Yes, recruiting, of course. They developed at Bama, I think, as well as anybody else in all of college football. And that's why I think Saban would be more than fine in today's college football. It's why Kirby and Georgia are more than fine in today's college football, having won the SEC the last 2 years, made the playoff the last 2 years. Haven't won a Natty and 12-team playoff yet. I'm not worried about that. I think it's a matter of time. Like Kirby Smart in Georgia, you don't hear about Georgia being this massive spender when it comes to adding talent at the high school level. They give you a, I'm sure, good chunk of change to commit to their school and to be a part of what they're building, all those things. But you make your real money at Georgia when you start making real plays, which I think is a novel idea and something that maybe more schools would be wise to follow. Neither here nor there. The point being, though, Georgia hasn't dropped off the face of the map when NIL became a reality. Georgia's still one of the best teams in college football. Kirby Smart's still one of the best coaches in college football. Why? Because they develop. Now, when you look at the way that college football is shifting, though, what's the narrative you're hearing right now? What's something that a lot of people are starting to murmur sort of quietly? I just said all these things about Georgia and Kirby, but like, hey, who's won the last 3 national titles? The Big Ten. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Big Ten is starting to win at the highest level in the world of college football the last couple of years, and the staffs they have in the Big Ten when it comes to development. Look across the board. Signetti, Indiana, development factory. Say what you want about Lanning and Oregon, they develop as well. Ohio State, we've made this case for them for a while now. Michigan, new to the mix with Kyle Whittingham. Before that, Jim Harbaugh was a development machine out there in Ann Arbor. I think you have some of the best staffs when it comes to developing talent in all of college football in the Big Ten now. Everyone wants to point to NIL and alumni, and that's probably a true thing for the Big Ten. But again, NIL doesn't mean anything if you don't do anything with the talent that you're able to buy and bring to your roster. The Big Ten is winning, sure, because of NIL. I think more importantly, they're winning because they develop their players better than everyone else across college football. Going back to Daniel Jeremiah in that mock draft. It's a mock. It's February. But right now, he's got 5 Ohio State players in the top 10 of his first-round mock 2.0. He's got 10 Big Ten players in the first round of his second mock draft. SEC's still in there. SEC's got 8. And I've been accused of being an SEC homer, SEC bias, this, that, and the other, whatever. I'm just telling you how it is right now. The Big Ten is winning. Ohio State is winning and will continue to win because of how they develop and because of what those guys go do on Sundays. And that whole thing being a chicken or the egg situation of develop, show the product of what you guys have at the professional level, much like Bama did, much like Georgia does now. And then guys see that. And I was a part of it. But the real money, these kids know that are getting good advice, that comes when you go play on Sundays, all right? So Ohio State, my pitch from on the recruiting trail for Ryan Day is, hey, we will develop you and turn you into Bionicle because of Mickey Marotti and the way that his strength staff gets down. Look at Sonny Styles, look at Lorenzo Styles, look at Arvell Reese. We turn out players. It's big for Ohio State, but I think at a macro level, it's kind of how the Big Ten's making their money right now. No pun intended on them making their money either. It is what it is, man. It is what it is during the month of March, man. I know I just said that mock was from February, but it's already March 3rd. That is absolutely unbelievable. Spring ball starting up across the country. We will have spring intel here for you as soon as we get it into our ears. We will have it into your ears. It'll be a great time. Spring propaganda, I would assume, is not that far away either. Social teams, go ahead and get those on and popping. If your team drops a clip you want us to react to, tag us in it. Again, at JD PicKell, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere at JD PicKell. Follow me there and let me know if your school drops some juicy propaganda for us to give our thoughts on. All right? Hey, I appreciate y'all making the show what it is. Again, it's a college football show. It's the month of March. We just went an hour 12. Jeez Louise. It's a longer show than I thought. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Cato on the ones and twos. Myself, JD PicKell. We're going to keep the party rolling. And we'll see y'all next time.